The story begins like any other. One day, a rift appeared in the sky, and monsters from another world, called Mostro, invaded the human world. Humans had no way to close the rift, and the Mostro unleashed massacres to their heart's content. Even the military was powerless, plunging the world into unprecedented despair, or so it seemed. Until the Awakened Ones appeared. Possessing extraordinary powers, they became humanity's hope against calamity, and people called them heroes. One morning, in a chaotic city, monsters rampaged, destroying everything in their path. Ordinary humans ran hopelessly, trying to save their lives. On a street corner, a flaming object appeared, catching the attention of one of the Mostro. It sped toward the flame but stopped abruptly in front of a woman holding a child. The child cried out that he was scared. Just then, someone appeared in time. Our protagonist, Ren Dabon. He stepped in front of the Mostro to protect the mother and child, shouting at them to run while he held it off. The Mostro swung one of its sharp wings at him, which he blocked with his sword, struggling to hold his ground as the mother and child escaped. But then, the Mostro launched its other wing, striking Ren in the side and sending him flying. He slammed into a wall, coughing up blood in pain. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked to see the Mostro's gaping mouth inches from his head, ready to devour him. Fortunately, a man appeared just in time, wielding a sword, and with a single swing, he decapitated the monster. Meanwhile, on the ground, other men were effortlessly burning and killing Mostro as if it were child's play. The man with firepower declared it was over and incinerated the Mostro flying in the air. Within minutes, all the monsters were dead. The people emerged from hiding, knowing they were safe, and praised the heroes. The child from earlier told his mother that when he grew up, he wanted to be just like the commander, while the mother thanked the heroes repeatedly. Kanda Yu, the youngest commander in the history of the heroes, was an Esper with lightning abilities. Known as the Star of Hope for humanity due to his unmatched strength, he inspired awe. The deputy commander, Riku Darren, was a young but calm and composed Esper with overwhelming power. Lastly, there was Sakuma Retsu, a fire-wielding Esper with a rough personality and the ace of the assault squad. Dabon stared at them, vowing silently that someday he would possess that kind of strength too. Later, in a safe area, the healer Shiraishi warned him to be careful. The bodily fluids of the winged Mostro were poisonous, and even contact with their vapor could cause poisoning. She handed him an antidote, which he thanked her for, and drank. But then, he was startled when someone asked if a powerless weakling charging at the Mostro was stupid. Retsu mocked him, asking if he had a death wish. Darren added coldly that if someone like him was considered a hero, it would be a disgrace. Dabon stayed silent, but Retsu pressed further, asking if he thought he could erase the stigma of being a traitor's son. This made Dabon snap. He shouted that his father was not a traitor. Retsu kicked him, sending him sprawling, and reminded him that his father, the former commander, had abandoned his injured comrades and fled to the other world. Dabon stuttered, tears streaming down his face, insisting that his father would never betray humanity. Retsu pinned him to the ground, shouting at him to shut up. Dabon growled in pain but glared at Retsu with defiance. Retsu teased him, asking if he wanted more, then let him go, telling him to prove himself when he was ready. Dabon stood up, trembling, as Retsu taunted that he could finish him off with just one finger. Dabon lunged forward, throwing a punch, but before he could even get close, Retsu's flames engulfed him. Dabon dropped to the ground, rolling to extinguish the fire while the others called him an idiot. Chiyo rushed to his aid, shouting at the men to stop. She helped him up, telling them that a child shouldn't bear the burden of their parents' actions and that they should let it go. Retsu dismissed her, saying she was too soft, and Darren added that she'd be fooled by him too. Suddenly, Dabon's heart began to pound uncontrollably. He wondered what was happening. It hurt so much. His veins bulged, dark blood visible beneath his skin. Chiyo noticed immediately and realized it was the winged Mostro's poison. Dabon recalled the moment he had slammed into the wall earlier, which had been covered in the monster's sting. Chiyo quickly reached for an antidote, assuring him she had one last dose left. But before she could administer it, someone stopped her. It was Yu, who calmly stated that it wasn't the right time to use it. Yu bent down in front of Chiyo, asking for the antidote and ordering her to check on a child who had collapsed nearby. She handed him the antidote but hesitated, looking at him with concern. Yu assured her it was fine and told her to leave it to him. Reluctantly, she agreed, glancing at Dabon one last time before rushing to the child Yu had mentioned. Yu reached for the antidote, then teasingly asked Dabon if he wanted it. However, he pointed out that a dog nearby hadn't been looking well for a while and might have been poisoned. With only one antidote left, Yu asked what they should do. Retsu chimed in, saying there was no need to hesitate because the dog was useful in combat, unlike Dabon. Darren added that Dabon had acted like a hero earlier, but was now willing to let the dog die. Yu stood up, remarking that it seemed everyone shared the same opinion. He opened the lid of the antidote and poured it onto the ground, leaving Dabon stunned in shock. The dog approached the spilled antidote, sniffed it, and began licking it. But then, the dog turned around and defecated on the antidote, leaving Dabon shouting in disbelief for it to stop, though it was too late. Yu acted as though he hadn't known the dog wasn't poisoned and only had an upset stomach. Dabon, trembling, asked why they were doing this to him, shouting about the cruelty of their actions. Yu simply replied that Dabon was an eyesore. He placed his foot on Dabon's shoulder and coldly stated that the son of a traitor should live like a worm. Instead of knowing his place, Dabon wanted to join the heroes, which Yu called a mistake that made him sick. With that, Yu kicked Dabon's head, sending him flat to the ground again. Yu added that trash should remain trash and that Dabon should have been discarded long ago. He warned that if Dabon's name didn't appear on the casualty list, he'd be seen as a pathetic deserter, just like his father. Yu and the others walked away, with Yu ordering Retsu to seal off the entire area, claiming that Mostro were still lurking nearby. Retsu gladly agreed, relieved that the nuisance was gone. Darren mentioned that the party tonight was on, leaving Deon lying hopelessly on the ground. He tried to stand but couldn't, collapsing again. Cursing loudly, he wondered why he was being treated this way after risking his life to protect others. Frustrated and on the verge of losing consciousness, he suddenly felt a strong aura behind him. He peeked back, his vision blurry from the poison, and realized a Mostro was approaching. A lady, likely a high-ranking Mostro, walked closer, causing him to panic. In his current state, he couldn't even defeat a low-ranked Mostro, and he wondered if this was where he would die. Memories flooded his mind. He recalled telling his father that his teacher had praised him, saying he could become a novelist someday. His essay, titled Papa is a Hero, had even won an award. But he had clarified to his father that he didn't want to be a novelist. He wanted to be a hero, just like him. His father had smiled proudly. Yet one day, someone informed them that his father, Ren Hanada, had betrayed the heroes and humanity. All their assets were confiscated, including their home, and they were ordered to leave by the end of the day. Deon had refused to believe it, shouting that it couldn't be true. Years later, his mother passed away from illness. With her final words, she told him to trust his father and find out the truth for her. She closed her eyes in tears, leaving Deon crying in pain. He had promised her that he wouldn't die in a place like this, because he was Ren Hanada's son. Now, with the Mostro lady calmly staring at him, Deon grabbed a piece of pipe nearby, refusing to give up. Pushing himself to stand, he shouted that he wasn't afraid of Kanda or her. Clenching his teeth tightly, he launched himself toward the lady, determined to fight. But before he could get closer, the lady glared at him and aimed her hand in his direction, releasing a powerful force that struck him. He screamed in pain as the blast sent him flying. He slammed into the ground, bounced, and finally came to a stop. Coughing up blood, he still tried to stand, looking up in disbelief. He wondered if she was an S-Class Mostro, and if so, why was an S-Class here? He began to question if the intel had been wrong and if the weaker Mostro from earlier were merely a distraction, while this was the real ambush. Struggling to his feet, he knew he had to inform headquarters. But before he could act, the lady appeared in front of him in an instant, her sharp nails slashing through his body. Blood splattered everywhere as he collapsed to the ground. The lady calmed down and stared at his lifeless body. She couldn't believe he hadn't been able to withstand even that much. It confirmed her belief that lower-ranked humans were fragile, though the strength of their souls was exceptional. She bent down beside him and reached out slowly. A moment later, his soul was dragged into deep darkness and pushed into another body. His soul landed perfectly, fully compatible with the new form. Suddenly, he regained consciousness, his eyes snapping open. He sat up in a panic, screaming loudly. Catching his breath, he looked around, confused. Where was he? Wasn't he just on the battlefield? He glanced at his hands, wondering why he was alive and what was happening outside. He got out of bed and called out, asking if anyone was there because he had something important to do. Then he noticed a mirror nearby, reflecting a completely different version of himself. He had long hair and a demon horn. Staring in disbelief, he stumbled back, causing a loud noise that alerted others. Two women entered the room and noticed he was awake. They observed him standing in front of the broken mirror, confirming that the fusion had been successful. With trembling hands, he stared at his new reflection. He shouted in horror, realizing he had turned into a Mostro. Hearing footsteps, he turned to see the lady from earlier entering the room. Enraged, he grabbed a golden mirror stand and charged at her, shouting that she was the one who had turned him into this monster. Before he could reach her, the lady's guard, Ao, moved with blinding speed, kicking him away and pinning him to the floor. She held a knife to his throat and demanded to know why he had dared to approach the princess. He looked up, confused, and asked what they meant by princess. His question surprised not only Ao, but also the demon lady herself. Ao, standing behind him, let him go and returned to the princess's side. The demon lady introduced herself as Maya, the princess of the demon clan. In the human military records, she was listed as the first-ranked threat. She asked if he didn't know who she was, but he had no idea. As a lowly soldier, he had never been assigned to high-ranking missions and wouldn't have access to such information. Ao then informed him that if Maya hadn't extracted his soul, he would have died. He asked what they meant by soul extraction and recalled that, according to the hero's records, Mostro were classified into 4 types: the Demon Clan, the Winged Clan, the Beast Clan, and the Armored Clan. The Winged Clan specialized in flight and carried poison. The Beast Clan was known for speed and extraordinary strength. The Armored Clan had exceptional destructive and defensive capabilities, and the Demon Clan resembled humans the most. Their abilities, however, were far from simple. Some members of the Demon Clan possessed mental abilities, and high-ranking ones could separate their bodies and souls, though this was only rumored, as no one had ever witnessed it. He realized that his soul had been exchanged with that of a Demon Clan vessel, and asked what had happened to his original body. Maya explained that the poison of the Winged Clan corroded quickly, reducing even an elephant to mere blood within 10 minutes. This meant his body had likely already been disposed of. The thought horrified him. He imagined professional cleaners throwing chemical-laden water on his remains and scrubbing them away. He tried to step forward in disbelief, but collapsed onto the floor. Ao mentioned that she had heard humans developed robots to clean up battlefields, with some drones equipped with flamethrowers that left nothing behind, not even ash. Maya mused that she should get a few of those drones for herself. He pictured a drone scooping up his corpse and burning it to ash, prompting him to shout at them to show some consideration for how he felt. Maya told him that what happened to an empty body was none of her concern, and that he should focus on adapting to his new body as quickly as possible. He retorted that she shouldn't mess with him, as he wasn't her subordinate and had no obligation to follow her orders. He shouted that he was a human and demanded to know why she had turned him into this. He accused her of trying to extract information about humanity or the heroes from him. Maya was momentarily speechless. and he told her it was too bad for her because she had picked the wrong person to bring here. He then charged at her, shouting that if he was going to be used by the monstro, he'd rather die there again. Ao asked if he was still resisting, and he was startled when she appeared in front of him and kicked him, calling him pathetic. Ao repeatedly kicked and punched him, telling him he was too weak. She raised her leg to kick him again, shouting that he shouldn't get cocky with such pitiful strength. She added that even if it was just a vessel, it was humiliating that a weakling like him could be part of the demon clan. This angered him, and he demanded to know who she was calling a weakling. Gathering power in his fist, he punched Ao in the stomach before she could kick him again, sending her flying into the wall. Both Maya and Ao were shocked, and so was he. He stared at his hand, unable to believe what he had just done. Ao was stunned to see the power of the demon clan manifesting in him, and Maya realized that the power of the demon clan was linked to the strength of the soul. She wondered how a mere human could possess such strength. He felt power surging through his entire body, a sensation he had never experienced before. He asked them what was happening. Maya suddenly felt something and rushed to him. She grabbed his shoulder and threw him forcefully, but he landed safely on the soft bed. She then sat on his body in a panic, staring at him shyly for a moment. But then, Maya tightly grabbed his neck, making him struggle to breathe. He wondered what was happening. He tried to push himself up but realized he couldn't move. The demonic energy that had been surging through his body moments ago was now completely gone. Maya suddenly felt something and grabbed her clothes, quickly removing them. He asked her what she was planning to do. She grabbed a nearby blanket and threw it over them, lying on top of him. Meanwhile, outside, long, vein-like tendrils crawled along the walls toward the room's door. They pierced through the door, and once inside, the flower-like structures at their tips opened, revealing eyes. The eyes began to scan the room, observing what appeared to be an intimate moment between Maya and him. Ao immediately grabbed one of the tendrils and snapped it, causing the eye to lose its life. She then hunted down the other eyes, tearing their tendrils in half and slashing every vein-like structure in the room. Maya silently watched Ao while he stared at her, noticing how beautiful she was. He wondered if all Demon Clan women were this stunning, as Maya was more beautiful than any woman he had ever met. He quickly looked away, scolding himself for such thoughts. He reminded himself that he was human and Maya was a monstro. Yet he couldn't help but wonder what Maya was trying to do. If it was this a honeypot trap, or some form of torture? His eyes wandered to her figure and he found himself questioning her intentions. Was she planning to manipulate him until the very end? She leaned closer to his face, making him feel shy. He couldn't believe his first kiss might be stolen at death's door, and by a demon no less. He closed his eyes, bracing himself, but instead of a kiss, something soft and slimy was thrown onto his face. He opened his eyes to see an eye with a vein attached. He immediately threw it away, shouting in disgust and demanding to know what it was. Maya explained that it was the eye of a mandala, a reconnaissance creature. He asked if that meant the place was being monitored, to which Maya nodded. Ao reported that a few of the mandala had escaped, suggesting that there were people who couldn't stop worrying about Shura's fate. Maya told him that Shura was the owner of the body he now inhabited, and that Shura was her fiancée. This only confused him further. She explained that she and Shura were supposed to get married that day, but Shura had disappeared. By the time she found him, he was already dead. She was confused about why Shura had been there and who had killed him. But one thing was clear. The wounds on Shura's body weren't inflicted by humans. This made him wonder if it was an internal conflict among the Mostro. Maya added that the Demon Clan valued merit above all else. Even royalty was no exception. If they didn't constantly grow stronger, they would be left behind. She informed him that Shura had been the strongest warrior of the Demon Clan, and losing him meant she would immediately become a target. To keep Shura's death a secret, she had no choice but to merge a living soul with Shura's body. He asked if she was saying she hadn't brought him there to blackmail the military. She confirmed this and asked if she was correct in assuming he had been abandoned by the military. Her words shocked him. Ao chimed in, calling him just a lowly soldier and pointing out that there were no other survivors, so Maya had no choice but to pick him. This angered him even more. Maya then gave him a choice: cooperate with them or die once again. Her words left him startled and unsure of what to do. She handed him a tablet, and he asked what it was. On the screen, he watched a video of the military announcing that the heroes had defeated the Mostro in the recent battle, protecting the lives and property of the people. The military official added that on behalf of the military, they were awarding a medal for this achievement. The man called Yu to the stage, praising his excellent command during the operation, and awarded him a first-class medal. Yu walked onto the stage and stood respectfully in front of the official, who opened the medal box and pinned it to Yu's uniform. They saluted each other, and the heroes and civilians in the audience cheered proudly for Yu. A woman and her child, holding a bouquet of flowers, then entered the stage. The child handed the flowers to Yu and thanked him for saving him and his mother. The child excitedly told Yu that he wanted to learn how to fight, so he could become a hero and defeat the Mostro like him. Retsu told the child he was still too young, and Darren added that such things should be left to adults. But the child confidently shouted that he wasn't a kid, and that he was strong, making everyone laugh. Yu lifted the child into his arms and thanked everyone for their trust in the heroes. He declared that defeating the Mostro and protecting the people was their responsibility and duty, and they took pride in it. He expressed hope that more young people would join them in the fight one day. Yu also warned that choosing this path meant accepting sacrifice. He urged everyone to remember that in war, they were weapons, shields, and the last line of defense for the people. Fleeing from the enemy, fearing death, or abandoning those who couldn't fight were acts equivalent to murder, and they would never forgive traitors. The people echoed his words, shouting repeatedly that they would never forgive traitors. Dabon was shocked by this. The video ended with his picture displayed as a wanted criminal, complete with a bounty. Trembling with anger, he glared at his own image in silence. Maya told him that he didn't have to cooperate with them, but no one would thank him. and he would live his life branded as a traitor. She asked if she was right in saying it was frustrating to die like this without ever having had a chance to prove himself. He shouted that it was indeed frustrating and demanded to know why his family had to suffer while those who spread lies lived carefree lives. He declared that he couldn't die. He would live no matter what. One day he would get revenge on those bastards and return everything Yu had done to him tenfold. In a fit of anger, he threw the tablet to the ground, smashing it into pieces. Maya watched him with a faint smile. Later, when he had calmed down, he entered a large room and saw a dragon sleeping peacefully in the center. As they approached it, he reached out to pet it, wondering if it was the demon clan's ride. The dragon suddenly opened its eyes and growled at him angrily. Maya quickly stepped in to protect him, releasing something from her hand for the dragon to smell. She explained that the dragon was Shura's ride, and while his body was Shura's, his soul was human, which caused magical beasts to react strongly. After the dragon familiarized itself with the scent, Maya squeezed the object in her hand and reformed it into a ring. She tossed it to him and told him that wearing the Inferon would mask his human scent. Io appeared, holding a stack of papers, and told him that they contained everything he needed to know about Shura. She said he should learn it all before they reached the demon palace. She dropped the pile into his hands and he shouted, asking how many days they thought it would take to memorize all of it. Ao simply replied that she didn't care. Maya added that he didn't have to memorize it if he didn't want to, but if he made even the slightest mistake, she would kill him. Her words left him standing still, completely speechless. Later, they were flying on the dragon's back. He looked down, unable to believe the world inside the gate. Demons walked the streets, talking, drinking, having fun, and selling food just like normal humans. He had always thought of the Mostro as a barbaric group, but now he wondered if this was the kind of life they led. Maya told him that the world he came from wasn't much different, so he would get used to it quickly. But he disagreed, saying that humans had morals and laws, and they lived by helping each other, while demons only knew murder and theft. He then noticed that many things around them resembled human creations and asked if most of the items there had been taken from humans. Ao reminded him that they were war spoils and that it was only natural to take what they could. She added that if he was upset, he should try taking them back. Her words angered him, and he retorted that thieves could only speak from a thief's logic. Maya, however, simply stared at him in silence. Maya was suddenly shocked when she saw a swarm of bugs blocking their path. The bugs rushed toward them, and he covered his face in fear. But Maya calmly raised her hand, burning the bugs away as the dragon continued flying forward. He asked her what those bugs were and why there were so many of them. Maya explained that they were horseflies, born in the abyss, and their bites caused pain that could last for days. She then ordered the dragon to lower its altitude, and it complied. As they descended, a foul smell hit his nose. He immediately covered it, shouting that it stank. Maya explained that it was called miasma. He looked ahead and saw a dark ocean filled with monstrous fish. Smaller fish were being eaten by larger ones, but then an even bigger sea monster appeared and killed the predator. The sight surprised him. Maya explained that the abyss was where the sea met the depths of their world. She told him that while he spoke of laws, they had their own survival rules. The strong eat the weak. She further explained that the water in the abyss was highly toxic and emitted miasma, which seeped into the air and the ground. In such an environment, the weak weren't even allowed to live. Unlike humans, they couldn't plow fields or raise livestock because resources were scarce, forcing them to steal. Maya added that for the demon clan, life was for the strong, and death was for the weak. This was their only rule. He remembered that all the soldiers who had tried to invade the other world had died from poisoning. Every attempt had ended the same way, and he wondered if the miasma was the reason. He glanced at Maya, who was staring at the ocean of miasma, and thought that if he wanted to escape, now might be his chance. He readied his hand to push her off, but then he noticed Maya's guard nearby. Realizing he didn't have enough information, he decided it was too dangerous. If he went back now and told everyone what he had seen, no one would believe him, and Yu might kill him again. Maya looked at him and asked what he was thinking. Awkwardly, he replied that he wasn't thinking about anything. Maya then told him they were about to reach the center of the abyss and advised him to hold on tight. The dragon suddenly dove at high speed, creating a strong air pressure that made him scream loudly. The dragon continued to fly at high speed, the pressure hitting his face and making him cry out in fear. He held on tightly, but moments later, he saw a huge castle below. As the dragon landed, he was thrown off, slamming face first into the ground. Trembling, he sat up and vomited to the side. Through his blurry vision, he saw Maya and in his disoriented state, mistook her for his grandmother. He happily asked if she had come to pick him up, but Maya slapped him across the face, sending him sprawling and dragging across the ground. He felt hurt and looked up, confused, as the demon clan's stronghold came into view. Maya noticed 3 rye dragons resting nearby and realized the other demon generals were already there. Ao explained to him that the 3 demon generals were ambitious and powerful enough to challenge Maya for the throne. They were likely the ones who had released the mandala's eyes. Maya asked if he had gone through the documents, but he looked away without responding. Ao shouted at him, demanding to know if he was admitting he hadn't memorized anything. She aimed her knife at him, warning that deceiving the demon king was a grave sin. If he showed even the slightest flaw, she would kill him first to protect Maya. He shouted back that they were supposed to be allies, and if they couldn't trust him, she might as well kill him now. Ao drew her second knife, agreeing with him, but then she noticed Maya smiling and stopped. Maya calmly told him to be careful, which left him flustered. He stood up proudly looking at the castle, and boasted that they might not know it, but he was called the strongest brain in the army. Since he didn't have any special abilities, his role was to analyze the enemy quickly and find their weaknesses. Learning about the Mostro, he claimed, was child's play for him. He assured them he had already memorized everything about the demon clan, and told them to trust him. Just then, the castle gates opened, and he felt a wave of strong auras emanating from inside. He peeked in and saw a swarm of eyes glaring menacingly at him. The intensity of their stares left him speechless and terrified. Maya told him it was time to go and walked inside first. He followed, hearing the Mostro whispering about Shura, the so-called god of death. They commented that he looked normal and speculated that if they defeated him, the princess would be theirs. Their words made him feel threatened and uncomfortable. Suddenly, a huge man dashed toward them, leaping into the air as he got closer. Ao immediately rushed forward, knives in hand, but the man slapped her aside effortlessly and continued charging toward him. Maya swiftly whipped out her weapon and swung it at the man, but he dodged. She continued to strike, forcing the man to retreat and jump away. Maya addressed the man as Moran, one of the demon generals, and demanded to know what he was trying to do. Moran casually replied that he was just stretching because his back hurt. Another demon general, Mami, chimed in, teasing Maya about being a newlywed and suggesting she must be busy with many things. Mari, another general, asked if Maya had found Shura, as rumors were spreading about his unknown whereabouts. Mari added that it was strange for Shura to go missing on such an important day and asked Maya what was going on. Mami chimed in, calling Maya a generous princess, saying that if it were her, she would have torn Shura apart by now. Moran then asked if Shura had abandoned his fiancée to go off looking for a mistress. Maya realized that the information about Shura's disappearance had already leaked. She knew that if someone there had killed Shura, they would have exposed it by now. This led her to believe that they were still probing because they didn't have confirmation of Shura's death. The demons in the crowd began shouting at Maya to forget Shura and marry them instead. Moran then challenged him to a duel, declaring that whoever won would get the princess. Moran turned to him and asked what he thought about the idea. The demons cheered, eager for a duel to take place. Maya wondered what they were trying to do and realized they were deliberately provoking Shura to force him into action. Ao whispered to Maya that something felt off, and they both glanced at Deon, who was trembling in silence. Meanwhile, he felt his heart pounding uncontrollably and wondered why it was beating so loudly. His body began to shake and he realized it was fear. He had faced life and death situations countless times before, but had never felt fear like this. It was as if a sheep had wandered into a pack of wolves, and he was about to be hunted. Maya noticed the dark smoke surrounding him and realized someone was using an illusion. She knew that if this were the real Shura, such a weak illusion wouldn't be an issue. But his soul was human, and at this rate, he would be crushed. However, if she intervened now, it would reveal that Shura was fake. She was unsure what to do. He saw Moran's figure looming before him. His vision blurred, and he felt like he couldn't breathe, as if his heart was being squeezed and about to explode. Moran shouted at him to say something, but he remained silent, which only angered Moran further. Moran unleashed his firepower and aimed his fist at him, shouting not to underestimate him. But before Moran could strike, Maya kicked him from behind, sending him slamming face first into the floor. The sudden move shocked Moran, Mami, Marie, and all the demons watching. Maya calmly stated that a man who didn't cherish her wasn't worth having. She told him that if he didn't clear up the misunderstanding, she would cancel their engagement right then and there. His heartbeat returned to normal and he regained his composure. He could see Moran's shoes clearly now and realized his body could move again. He sat up, breathing heavily. Moran laughed and called him a coward, saying he couldn't even defeat a woman, which proved the princess had bad taste. He responded that he had known something was off, but now he realized it was Moran's mouth. This enraged Moran, who demanded to know what he had just said. Smirking, he headbutted Moran with his horn, shouting, "How dare Moran insult his woman?" The strike cracked Moran's eggs, causing him to scream in agony. Io called him a coward, while Mami remarked that she was glad she wasn't a man, as just watching the scene made her feel pain. Mari added that Shura, the god of death, was truly terrifying. He stood up, watching Moran writhe in pain on the ground. The demons were impressed. With a single strike, he had subdued one of the demon generals, and they were relieved they hadn't picked a fight with him. Moran, furious, called him a bastard and shouted that he would kill him. But before Moran could act, someone announced the arrival of the Demon King. A rift appeared in the hall, sucking in the air around it and growing larger and larger. When the rift began to spread, Maya introduced herself, followed by Mari and Moran. They all knelt down in respect, and the other demons followed suit. Maya noticed Moran was still standing and asked if he planned to disrespect the Demon King. This angered Moran, but he remained silent and reluctantly knelt down. He stood behind Maya, his focus fixed on the rift, waiting for the leader of the demons, the only SSS-level Mostro in the military files. To his surprise, a small, cute animal emerged from the rift. It was the Demon King. He couldn't believe his eyes and wondered why the Demon King looked like a capybara. He then heard Maya's voice in his head, telling him not to be surprised. He looked around and realized he was the only one who could hear her. Maya explained through telepathy that the Demon King had grown old and entrusted most of the work to the 4 demon generals. It was rare for the Demon King to show his face, so he usually communicated through intermediaries. She added that even Shura had never met the Demon King in person. For now, she instructed him to stay hidden and silent. The Demon King announced that there was an important discussion to be held today. The 4-clan meeting was about to take place, and this time, they would select a new representative to join. Maya remained calm, while the 3 demon generals smirked. He asked Maya through telepathy what the 4-clan meeting was. She explained that the Demon Clan, Winged Clan, Beast Clan, and Armored Clan gathered every 5 years to discuss important matters such as contracts, peace treaties, and land divisions. The most authoritative figures from each clan participated, and until now, the Demon King himself had attended. In other words, the person chosen as the representative would have the potential to ascend to the throne of the Demon King. Moran stood up and proudly declared that among the 4 demon generals, he had the most subordinates and the greatest power, making him the best candidate. Maya knew that Moran's strength was unmatched among the generals, but his rough personality and lack of consideration for others made him unfit for leadership. Marie responded to Moran, saying it was a shame because the role required brains, not just muscles, something Moran lacked. Maya knew that while Mari's power was weaker than Moran's, he was the most cunning and excelled in calculations, making him the sharpest of the group. Ao then spoke up, stating that the most noble person should attend the 4 clan meetings. As the Demon King's daughter, Maya should participate. However, Maya knew that despite her status, women held a low position in the Demon Clan, and she would be at a disadvantage in the succession. Moran teased Maya, suggesting she should learn skills to please men so her husband wouldn't run away. He added that there was no place for women in such matters. Suddenly, a venomous snake appeared at Moran's side and tried to bite him, but Moran dodged it easily. The snake turned and attempted to strike again, angering Moran, who punched it away. The snake crawled back to Mami, who warned Moran that if he looked down on women, a woman would kill him. Maya knew that Mami, despite being a woman, knew how to use her femininity to her advantage and was cruel by nature. Mami had enchanted many men and had numerous subordinates. Moran asked Mami if she was planning to fight him, but she replied that she wasn't. She added that Moran seemed injured and that pushing himself further would ruin him as a man, which infuriated him even more. Mari stood up and declared that it didn't matter whether someone was a man or a woman. For the Demon Clan, power was everything, and he would support whoever was the strongest. Hearing Mari's words, the other demons realized they also had a chance. They had never heard that the king would choose from the 4 demon generals, and as long as they were strong, they could become the representative of the Demon Clan. The demons rushed at Moran together, trying to defeat him, but they were nothing more than pests to him. Deon noticed that Mari had skillfully turned Moran into an enemy, earning his respect as a clever strategist. He realized that when Moran and Mami were weakened, Mari would strike, reaping the benefits. In interspecies negotiations, strength was the trump card, and they didn't have time to fight among themselves. However, he thought the Demon Clan was too simplistic, as infighting only led to self-destruction. While Moran was busy attacking the demons, Mami took out her knife. Seeing the perfect angle, she dashed toward Moran from behind. Maya immediately jumped forward, shouting at Mami to wait. Just as Mami's knife was about to strike Moran's back, Maya managed to block it. But then, Mami's snake rushed forward, opening its mouth to bite Maya. Maya immediately swung her whip, wrapping it around the snake's body and stopping it from getting closer. Mami asked why Maya was protecting Moran when she should be siding with her. She sadly remarked that women should help each other, but Maya was siding with men instead. Maya responded that she wouldn't take sides and that it was pitiful to be killing each other at a time like this. Her words made him smile, as he thought Maya was at least capable of using her head a little. However, he noticed that the other demons were only concerned with their own interests and wouldn't listen to reason. Suddenly, Moran drew his massive sword and leaped toward Mami and Maya. He shouted at them to watch out, causing Maya to look back and release Mami's snake just as Moran's sword came down, slicing the snake in half. The force of the attack sent Mami and Maya flying. Ao caught Maya, while the snake looked worriedly at Mami. Mami assured her snake that she was fine, but was visibly upset that her snake had been injured. Mari teased Moran, saying he had gone too far by laying hands on Mami's precious snake. Mami gently patted her snake, but furiously told Moran that she wouldn't forgive him if anything happened to her child. Mami then floated into the air and slowly disappeared. Moran mocked her, asking if she was running away because she was weak, and shouted at her not to blame others. Moran looked around and proudly declared that none of the others were anything special. He challenged anyone who wanted to die to come at him. The demons, seeing the corpses of their comrades on the ground, realized that Moran's combat power was the real deal. With Maya and Mami out of the picture, they felt there was nothing they could do. Fearfully, the demons decided to back off. Moran turned to the Demon King and asked if he had seen everything, claiming that no one had any complaints. The Demon King asked if this was true, and when Maya and Mari remained silent, the king announced that Moran would represent the Demon Clan at the 4 Races conference. But then, Deon raised his hand and shouted for the Demon King to wait. He walked forward, shocking Maya and Ao. Moran was confused, and Mari asked if he was also interested in the conference. Deon ignored Mari, prompting Mari to comment to the crowd that Maya's man had not only playful intentions, but ambition as well. Ao thought he was being foolish and wondered what he was thinking, knowing he couldn't possibly take on Moran. Maya used telepathy to tell him to stop, but he assured her it was fine and that he knew what he was doing. Moran agreed to face him, saying he still hadn't repaid him for earlier. Moran leaped into the air, ready to bring his sword down on Deon, thinking he would kill him and claim Maya for himself. But Deon calmly told Moran that he wasn't there to fight him, which confused Moran. Moran angrily demanded to know what he meant. Deon whispered something to Moran that left him shocked. Confidently, Deon stared at Moran, further angering him. Moran then turned to the Demon King and admitted that he had been reckless. He agreed that Maya should participate in the 4 Races conference. Moran believes it is fine for Maya, the Demon King's daughter, to attend the conference in his place. His statement shocked all the demons. Mari asked Moran what he was trying to do, but Moran simply replied that he meant exactly what he said. Moran then explained that the others were too focused on what was right in front of them, unable to see the bigger picture. Even if they participated in the tournament, it would be meaningless. He added that with so many injuries, the other 3 tribes would laugh at them. The demons asked Moran if he was admitting that he had fought the hardest, which caused Moran to shout at them to shut up. The demons immediately fell silent in fear. The Demon King announced that Moran had given up his rights and recommended Maya as the representative. He asked if anyone opposed the decision, but Moran warned that he would consider anyone who objected an enemy. Mari remained quiet for a moment, but when he saw Deon's glare, he told the Demon King that if Moran supported it, he had no objections. The other demons quickly agreed as well. The Demon King then declared that Maya would represent the demon tribe at the next 4 races tournament. He told Maya not to betray everyone's expectations and to secure the demon tribe's interests. Ao was relieved, and Maya respectfully accepted the Demon King's decision. After the meeting, Moran sat on his red dragon, calmly staring at Deon. He glared at him for a moment before flying away without a word. Ao asked Deon what he had done to change Moran's mind, but he simply asked if she had been watching and claimed he hadn't done anything significant. Ao didn't believe him, saying that Moran wasn't someone who could be reasoned with easily. She warned him to answer her properly. Maya was also staring at him, waiting for an explanation, which made him flustered. He finally admitted that he hadn't done anything extraordinary. He had simply asked Moran if he thought he'd survive if it got out that he had been selling Beast Tribe infants to the Wing Tribe for poison resistance experiments. That was what had shocked Moran. Ao was stunned, unable to believe that Moran had sold Beast Tribe infants. She asked if it was true, but Maya realized this was the reason Moran had given up his rights. Maya told him she had never heard of such a thing and asked where he had gotten the information. He proudly reminded them that his brain was his greatest strength. He explained that in the military's archives, there were classified documents containing high-level Mastro information, accessible only to the upper echelons. However, Yu had made low-ranking soldiers do chores, which allowed him to see the archives. He added that once he saw something, he never forgot it. The documents also contained information about Moran. Not only had he sold infants, but he had also shifted the blame onto the human military. As a result, the Beast Tribe and humans went to war to recover the infants, causing massive damage. Ao asked if his ability to memorize the material so easily was due to his preparation. He smirked and asked if they finally realized he wasn't as incompetent as they thought. Maya admitted that he had finally proven useful, and he proudly declared that his value was far from being fully shown. Maya was momentarily speechless, then smiled and told him she understood and would look forward to seeing more. Suddenly, someone commented that they had expected him to persuade Moran easily. It was Marie. Deon told Marie that Moran was a brainless fool, but Marie was the real deal, someone who incited others to fight while reaping the benefits. Marie laughed and said he was just joking. He then remarked that there was something different about Deon's aura compared to before. Deon asked what kind of aura Marie was talking about, and Marie replied that it was the scent of fear, the kind humans emit when they're afraid. Maya and Ao were shocked, but Deon remained calm, though visibly annoyed. Marie leaned closer to him, asking why the scent of human fear was coming from someone in the demon tribe. He gulped, unsure how to respond. Fortunately, Ao stepped in, telling Marie that his comment was rude. Marie shrugged and said he might have been mistaken, but he found it strange. Maya quickly explained that Shura had killed countless humans, so it wasn't surprising if the scent of their blood had soaked into his clothes. Marie accepted this explanation, acknowledging that it made sense. He teased Maya, saying it seemed she had found not only a good husband, but also a good ally. With a laugh, Marie walked away. Ao asked what Marie had meant, and Maya explained that Marie was skilled in mental manipulation. He particularly enjoyed the fear and despair his prey felt at the moment of death. Maya added that it was likely Marie who had released the magical energy toward him earlier, and it seemed Marie was suspicious of him. He asked Maya what they should do about it, admitting that the sensation of being dominated by fear was terrifying. It felt like all his bones were being crushed. He was grateful Maya had been there to help, but he was sure he wouldn't be able to withstand it next time. Maya told him that after today, Moran would definitely target him, and Marie would start probing further. She added that she and Ao couldn't stay by his side all the time, so he needed to gain the strength to protect himself and convince everyone he was the real Shura. Ao interjected, reminding Maya that he was too weak to even defeat normal demons, let alone someone like Moran or Marie. He was annoyed, and asked Ao who she was calling weak, to which she immediately replied, "It's him." Maya then told him that while his soul was human, his body was Shura's, and that could be useful. A moment later, they arrived at a mountain and stopped in front of a huge castle. He asked Maya what the place was, and she explained that it was Shura's armory. She informed him that Shura had a habit of taking the weapons of the enemies he killed as souvenirs. However, since Shura had killed so many, he ran out of space to store them and eventually created this special warehouse. Maya pushed the doors open, and they followed her inside. He was amazed by the vast collection of weapons displayed neatly, a testament to Shura's reputation as the god of death. He wondered how many lives Shura had taken. Among the weapons, he recognized a shield from the Gao tribe, a weapon from the Beast tribe, military guns, and even fangs from the Wing tribe. Disgusted, he asked if Shura had really brought back a Wing tribe's fang, calling it sick. Maya told him that Shura's strength was unparalleled, and it wasn't just because of his physical power. There was another reason. She pointed to a dark sword at the center of the warehouse, which radiated a bloody, menacing aura. Maya explained that it was Shura's sword, Deverolf. He remarked that it didn't seem particularly special, which earned him a smack on the head from Ao. She scolded him, calling him an idiot and telling him not to blaspheme with his narrow mindset. Ao then explained that when Deverolf first appeared, it sparked an unprecedented war in the demon realm. Moran, Mari, and Mami had fought over it, suffering severe injuries. Even the Demon King couldn't handle Deverolf. The conflict only ended when Shura intervened, and countless demons died without even being able to touch the sword. Despite this, he still asked if the sword was really that amazing. Maya explained that Deverolf wasn't just any weapon. It was a powerful demon with a life of its own. Those struck by the sword had their life force absorbed, turning into the master's flesh and blood. The more he killed, the stronger the sword and its wielder would become. Even without magical power, if he used Deverolf to absorb the power of demons, he could grow stronger. He nodded, understanding that if he absorbed enough magical power, he could become like Shura. But he swore that he wouldn't just become Shura, he would surpass him. Yet, just moments later, Ao and Maya watched him with disappointment. Ao asked Maya if he had any real battle experience, as he couldn't even defeat the lowest ranked magical beasts. He was getting beaten up by a small Mostro, unable to dodge its attacks. The Mostro repeatedly struck him in the head and stomach, leaving him cursing loudly. Despite their small size, the Mostros were far stronger than they looked. One of them leapt at him, aiming to stab him with its sharp horns. He quickly grabbed his sword and swung it, but the weapon was too heavy for him to control. Instead of hitting the Mostro, the sword stabbed into the ground. He struggled to pull it out, cursing in frustration, but then panicked when he saw the Mostro open its mouth, ready to bite him. He ran away, leaving the sword behind, and shouted at the Mostro not to eat him. Maya had known he was weak, but she hadn't expected it to be this bad. Ao was equally disappointed, remarking that he couldn't even handle a weapon properly. She thought it was absurd that he believed he could surpass Shura, calling humanity a race of big talkers. Maya noticed that while his body was Shura's, he didn't possess Shura's power, which was why Devarolf didn't recognize him as its master. She wondered if she had misjudged him, recalling the moment he had released a burst of power to push Ao away earlier. Meanwhile, the Mostro jumped toward him again. This time he managed to swing his body to the side, narrowly avoiding the attack. The Mostro landed safely behind him, teasingly smiling at him. He noticed a scratch on his body and the Mostro's sharp teeth. The small Mostros in front of him grinned menacingly, making him realize how much he was struggling. Seeing this, Maya dashed toward him at incredible speed. She whipped out her weapon and swung it, effortlessly throwing the Mostros away. The creatures gathered at a distance, trembling in fear. He sat down, catching his breath, but Maya told him they should call it a day. He disagreed, standing up and insisting that he had just been careless earlier and would do better this time. Maya coldly agreed and turned to leave, but before she did, she warned him that if anyone saw tooth marks from a low-ranked magical beast on Shura's body, there would be a huge uproar. He looked at the small scratch on his body, frustrated, and hit Devarolf, shouting that it was too heavy and hard to wield. He asked if there was any way to make it lighter. Maya explained that a magical sword like Devarolf only recognized those who could make it stronger as its master. If it determined he had no value, it wouldn't let him wield it. He remembered a time when a hero had called low-ranking soldiers worthless trash with no special abilities. The hero had shouted at them, saying they were just in the way and a burden on the battlefield. The hero had ordered them to clean up the dead bodies of monsters, warning them not to miss anything because the remains were needed for research. The soldiers had protested, saying it was too dangerous, as the building looked like it was about to collapse. They suggested letting the robots handle it, but the hero had snapped, asking if they knew how expensive it was to maintain robots compared to their worthless lives. The hero had reminded them that their value to the army was that low, and they shouldn't complain about danger. He turned to Maya and asked if she also thought he had no value. Maya was surprised, but simply told him he must be tired and should rest. She assured him that even if he couldn't use Devarolf, he shouldn't worry because Ao would protect him. This angered him, and he shouted that he wasn't going to be protected by a woman. Without warning, he dashed toward the group of Mostros gathered nearby, shocking Maya. She shouted at him, demanding to know what he was planning to do. He launched his fist toward the Mostros, shouting at them to try biting him with their big mouths. His taunt provoked them, and Maya shouted at him that without Devarolf, he didn't stand a chance. She warned him that attacking recklessly would only drain his stamina. Ao, however, remarked that humanity was truly young and playful. The Mostros pounced on him together. One bit his leg, and the other bit his arm, as the Mostro overwhelmed him. Maya shouted at him to shake them off, worried that he would be devoured without a single bone left. But he held the Mostros tightly, refusing to let go. Maya immediately prepared to use her whip, but Ao was shocked when she realized he was deliberately letting himself be bitten. She asked if he was insane. As he gathered all the Mostros around him, he glanced at Devarolf and sprinted toward it. When he got closer, Devarolf emitted a small bright light. As he reached for the sword, the light grew stronger, forcing Maya and Ao to cover their faces. A second later, they saw him holding Devarolf. Ao realized he had used his own body as bait, attracting the magical beasts and feeding them to Devarolf. Ao called him foolish, knowing it had been a suicidal act, but Maya remained silent. He excitedly told them that Devarolf felt lighter than before, as if some kind of power was flowing into his body. He said it felt strange and asked if this was what it felt like to be recognized by the sword. Maya approached him and told him that what he had done was too dangerous. He had almost become a sacrifice. But he simply asked if it hadn't worked, adding that the greater the risk, the greater the reward. He declared that if he couldn't take risks like this, he would never become the strongest man in the demon clan. His words made Maya blush, but she quickly regained her composure and told him it was too early to get cocky. She explained that Devarolf wouldn't be satisfied with just low-level magical beasts, and the power he had gained was only a fraction of what he would need. Maya then told him that in 10 days, before the four-clan conference, Marin would surely make a move. From now on, he would face even stronger magical beasts. He proudly agreed, shouting that they should bring it on because Devarolf was hungry. Maya looked at Ao, who smiled and nodded in agreement. He was excitedly swinging his sword around when he noticed something and was shocked to see a swarm of beasts inside a huge cage. Ao teased him, saying his next opponent was a Gale. He shouted that there were too many of them. A moment later, he was busy fighting Gales, easily slicing it with his sword. He skillfully stabs one Mostro, feeling refreshed by the sensation of leveling up. He spotted the last Gale growling at him and proudly declared he would finish it off. But when he struck the Gale on the head, it cried out and ran away, leaving him furious. He chased after it. Minutes later, he found himself deeper in the forest, looking around and wondering where the Gale had gone. He heard something moving behind a nearby bush and approached it, thinking he had found the Gale. But he was shocked to see the Gale dead on the ground, being eaten by a huge beast. He recognized it as an advanced magical beast, and knew that with his current strength, defeating it would be difficult. However, he thought that if he could defeat it, he would absorb a lot of power. He glanced at Devarolf, wondering if he should give it a try. Just then, he heard another movement in a different bush. He turned, wondering who was there, and was stunned to see Mommy emerge, severely injured. Mommy looked up and saw him, but he remained still, staring at her. He wondered why the demoness was there and if she had followed them. He also questioned whether she had overheard their conversation. He noticed that she had suffered significant damage. Glancing back at the advanced magical beast, he realized that if he didn't act, they would end up fighting among themselves. He decided to wait for the right moment and take advantage of the situation. Meanwhile, Mommy thought to herself that no man had ever resisted her charm. She planned to use him to attract the magical beast's attention while she made her escape. Suddenly, Mommy stepped on a tree branch, causing a loud crack that caught the beast's attention. Both of them panicked, realizing the beast had noticed them. The beast rushed toward them, and Mommy softly begged him to help her. Instead, he ran away, shouting at the beast to eat her if it was hungry. His reaction shocked her, but then a snake wrapped around his body, stopping him in his tracks. The snake dragged Mommy closer to him, and she wrapped herself around him from behind. She asked if he shouldn't act like a hero and help her, saying that running away was awful. She added that if he was still a man, he should protect her. He shouted at her to stay away, saying his wife hated her and that Maya would be upset if she saw them like this. Mommy licked his neck and teased that if the world found out the god of death was controlled by his wife, they'd laugh at him. But he didn't care and kept running, shouting that he wasn't interested. The beast gathered flames in its mouth and spat them in their direction. He ran as fast as he could, realizing the beast was a fire element magical beast. However, he wasn't fast enough. Just before the flames hit, Mommy jumped off his back and landed on his shoulder, hitting him and causing him to shout in pain. She then rolled through the air and landed in front of him, but the force of the explosion pushed him further, making him curse loudly. Fortunately, he managed to escape the flames and threw Mommy to the ground. She smiled at him as he frantically extinguished the flames on his back. Once the fire was out, he turned his attention to Mommy, and he immediately stood up and shouted at her, calling her a coward for using him as a shield. Mommy grabbed his shoulder and told him they were the same. He had tried to use her as bait to escape too. He shouted at her to let go, but she refused. Just then, he heard the beast approaching. Cursing loudly, he grabbed Mommy by the waist and ran with all his might, carrying her in his arms. Moments later, he reached the edge of a cliff. Below was a poisonous river, and he realized it was a dead end. The beast emerged from the forest and charged toward them. He remembered Maya telling him that even the demon clan couldn't survive the poison from the abyss. He knew that if he faced the magical beast head-on, his true identity would be revealed to Mommy, exactly what she was aiming for. With no other choice, he shouted, "There's no choice but to do it." He continued running toward the cliff, the beast hot on his heels. Mommy asked what he was trying to do, but when she saw the cliff approaching, she shouted at him, asking if he was out of his mind. She reminded him that below was the abyss and tried to escape his grasp, yelling at him not to drag her into it. Instead, he tightened his hold on her, telling her that she had been clinging to him moments ago, so trying to run away now was impossible. He leaped off the cliff, the beast still chasing them. The beast jumped after them, and as it did, he stabbed Devarolf into the stone wall. The sword dug into the rock, stopping their fall. The beast, however, plummeted past them and landed in the poisonous river below. Within seconds, the beast dissolved, leaving only its bones. He was horrified, wondering how such a large magical beast could dissolve so quickly. The poison was truly unbelievable. He glanced at Mommy and felt a strange, cold sensation. Looking down, he saw her legs trembling, and in the middle of it all, he realized she had peed. Disgusted, he stared at her. Mommy, her face red with embarrassment, told him it was the first time she had ever been so humiliated in front of a man. She then used her snake, which bit him on the side of his butt. Mommy shouted at him to die, making him scream in pain. His cries echoed above the cliff. Mommy then threw him off the cliff, causing him to call her a bastard, and demand to know why she was treating him like this after he had saved her life. She coldly replied that demons don't feel gratitude and that he had missed his chance to retaliate earlier. She hovered above him, giving him an amazing view and warning him not to hold back because she wouldn't hesitate to act. He shouted, asking what she was planning to do. Mommy sat down on him, and he knew their position was bad. He wondered why all demon women seemed to want to dominate others. He remembered that some demon women, while not matching men in physical strength, could drain their opponent's power through certain actions. As Mommy leaned closer, he trembled, imagining himself being drained of the magical power he had worked so hard to build. He tried to reach for Devarolf, but Mommy's snake wrapped around his hand, stopping him. Mommy told him it was better to stop resisting. She explained that he had already been poisoned by her snake's venom, which was designed specifically for men. If he lay still, he wouldn't have a seizure, but if he tried to stand, the poison would spread instantly, causing him to explode. He shouted that it was a vile poison, but Mommy licked her finger and told him that if he couldn't resist anymore, she would enjoy it. She tore his shirt open, only to be startled by the sight of his body covered in scratches. He panicked, remembering the wounds he had gotten from fighting low-level magical beasts. Mommy, however, was excited, thinking that Maya seemed so serious but that she liked that kind of play. Tempted, Mommy bent down to lick him, declaring that the power of the god of death was hers, making him scream in horror. While Mommy was about to drain his manlyhood, a whip suddenly swung in her direction. Mommy jumped away just in time to avoid it. Maya demanded to know what they were doing, and Al shouted at him, accusing him of having an affair while they were searching for him. He protested, saying it wasn't like that and that Mommy had poisoned him. Al shot back that if he was poisoned, he shouldn't be so energetic, angrily asking if he was mocking her. Maya shouted at him to get up quickly, but he explained that Mommy had told him if he stood up, the poison would spread throughout his body and cause him to explode. However, Al grabbed his hair and yanked him to his feet, shouting that no such poison existed. He was surprised when nothing happened and snapped, realizing he had been tricked. Furious, he shouted at Mommy for deceiving him. Mommy laughed, saying she never expected the god of death to be so simple-minded and that he was adorable. He wondered if Mommy was sane, considering she had just tried to kill him and was now flirting with him. Mommy sweetly told him she would let him off for today and that she would see him again. She flirtatiously touched his body, suggesting they should enjoy themselves together next time. He coldly replied that if she wanted to live, she should find someone else. But Mommy wrapped her arms around his neck, teasing that when a man says no, it's a sign to keep going. She kissed him on the cheek and turned to leave, leaving him speechless. Unbeknownst to him, Ao and Maya were fuming with anger behind him. Ao trembled with rage, seeing them flirt right in front of Maya. Mommy, however, walked away, clearly pleased with herself. Maya called out to Mommy, telling her to stop. Mommy turned back and Maya aimed her whip at her, reminding Mommy that the mountain was her territory. She asked if Mommy thought she could come and go as she pleased. Mommy smirked, saying she was surprised Maya was jealous. She then revealed that she hadn't come alone. Mommy explained that earlier she had been hunting demons and absorbing their power to heal her snake. After consuming a few demons, she felt better and asked her snake if the magic power had helped it recover. She swore to her snake that she would skin Moran alive one day to pay him back. While she was talking to her snake, she heard a noise nearby. When she investigated, she saw Moran's flying dragon resting. She overheard Moran asking why Shura had suddenly returned to the demon realm if he wasn't supposed to be there. Moran wondered if he had been tricked. Mari appeared, replying that he had just found out as well, and that the mandala's eyes he had sent out were completely obscured, meaning they had likely been discovered. Mommy was shocked to see Moran and Mari together. She wondered if they were collaborating. She then heard Moran ask Mari what he planned to do, and if he was really going to let Maya do as she pleased. Mari responded by asking why Moran was so anxious. He told Moran that there was still time before the four-clan council and that if things went well, they might be able to eliminate an enemy during the opportunity. Moran asked what Mari meant, but before Mari could answer, a small beast appeared in front of Mommy and bit her leg. The noise caught Moran and Mari's attention. Mari asked who was there, aiming his finger toward the bush and releasing a blast in Mommy's direction. Mommy was hit, but she knew she couldn't win in a 2-on-1 fight. She told herself that a good woman always plans for the future, so she decided to retreat. Quietly, she ran away. Moran and Mari rushed to the bush, knowing Marie had hit the witness, but all they found was a dead beast. Both of them were confused. Mommy also informed Maya that Moran wasn't the kind of man to let things go. It seemed he still had a trump card, so they needed to be careful. Maya asked why Mommy was telling them this. Mommy stuck out her tongue seductively and replied that it was because she liked her man. This guy is rizzing these girls without doing anything. Her words infuriated Maya, who glared at her. Mommy laughed and said she was just kidding. She then told Maya that they were about to have some fun, but Maya had held her back, which was a shame. Now, she needed to find someone else to clear her head. Mommy floated into the air, telling Maya that what she had done earlier was a service for her and that she should feel free to accept it. With that, Mommy disappeared into the air. Ao asked Maya what Mommy meant and if Mommy thought they hadn't noticed her scheme. Maya replied that no one knew for sure, but they now knew that Mandala's eyes were behind Moran's actions. According to Mommy, it seemed Moran and Marie were working together, and Maya wondered what they were plotting. She told Ao that the enemy had figured them out, so they needed to prepare. Ao agreed. Maya then whistled loudly, and her silver flying dragon approached. It landed near them, lowering its wings to let them climb on. Maya and Ao stepped onto the dragon's back, and it positioned its wings to take off. He shouted for them to wait, asking if they weren't going to let him ride. Maya replied that he still seemed full of energy and didn't look like he needed a break. The dragon took off into the air, but before it flew away, Maya shouted at him not to come back until he had taken down all the remaining magical beasts. The dragon sped away, leaving him alone in the forest. He tried to chase after them, shouting for them to wait. Later, he walked down the street, exhausted. He thought Maya had no mercy, as she had really left him in the mountains like that. He reminded himself never to make an enemy of a woman, especially Maya and Ao. He looked at his hand, noticing that he wasn't as tired as he thought he would be, and most of his wounds had healed. He wondered if he had absorbed some magical power. Just then, he heard something and turned to see a vendor selling clothes. He approached the stall, and the vendor asked if he was looking for something. He noticed a long-sleeve shirt and asked if it was a hero's uniform. The vendor showed it to him, explaining that it was something he had stripped off a human soldier. The fabric was durable, so it could even be used as a rag. He saw the badge on the uniform and realized it belonged to an officer. Thinking there might be something inside, he decided to buy it. The vendor thanked him. Hours later, he was back in his room, freshly washed. He immediately checked the officer's uniform and found something in its pocket. It was an electronic chip contact lens, the kind heroes always wore. These lenses could determine the rank of monstros by the energy they emitted, but only officers or higher-ranking soldiers were allowed to wear them. This was why regular soldiers often lost their lives in battle, unable to gauge the enemy's strength. He remembered buying a similar lens on the black market once, but it had torn the very first day he wore it. He had spent so much hard-earned money on it, and now he thought that if he had known, he would have used that money to buy something tasty instead. He looked at the lenses, wondering if demons' eyes were the same as humans. He put the lenses on and looked at himself in the mirror. The lenses allowed him to see Shura's aura, dark as the abyss and red as blood. He activated the lenses. They displayed his stats and his rank. He was excited to see a C rank on his status, knowing that monsters were ranked from A to F, with a few S rank and above beings referred to as upper monsters. He realized how incredible his body was. At first, he couldn't even defeat small beasts, but now he had risen to C rank in just one day. He began to wonder if he truly had talent. He figured out that Devarl sought a master of the same rank. In other words, the stronger he became, the higher the rank of the magical beasts he would have to defeat. He knew he would soon face beasts like the fire-spewing one from earlier, meaning physical attacks alone wouldn't be enough. He would need true demonic power. He recalled that among monsters, the combat style of demons was the most similar to human supernatural abilities. Offensive attributes like lightning, fire, ice, creation, earth, stone, and even special mental attributes were common among demons. But he wondered what type of demon Shura had been. He thought back to the first time he had possessed Shura's body. He remembered that, for some reason, a mysterious power had surged from deep within him. It felt as if he had instinctively protected himself, which was likely a manifestation of magic power. He sat down on his bed, deciding to try to recreate that feeling. He focused, attempting to control the energy inside his body. However, just minutes later, he dozed off and fell into a deep sleep. In his dream, he found himself at the Heroes Award ceremony. The chief announced to everyone that today was a memorable day. After a long battle, they had finally defeated the monsters and brought peace. He credited this victory to a certain individual who had boldly infiltrated the enemy camp without fear, enduring hardship and single-handedly causing the enemy to collapse from within, completely wiping out the monsters. The chief declared that this person was the hero of all humanity and called him forward. The crowd erupted in cheers, praising him as a hero. He walked up to the chief, who told him that he and his father were the heroes of humanity and the pride of the heroes. The chief pinned the highest honor, the special grade medal, onto his suit, saying it was presented on behalf of the military. He responded that he was truly honored. A kid in the crowd shouted that he was amazing and a hero. The kid said he also wanted to protect everyone like he did and asked him to teach him how to fight. The kid's mother told the child that the monsters had already been defeated by the hero, and from now on, they wouldn't have to live in fear anymore. He told the kid that while the war was over, humanity would always need brave people. He promised to teach the kid the essence of battle so he could become a man who would make his mother proud. The kid happily agreed. Suddenly, someone called his name. It was Chio. She told him she had always believed he would succeed. He took the wine she offered and thanked her, saying it was because of her treatment that he had survived. One of the ladies teased that Chio had saved him because she liked him, which flattered him. Chio shyly covered her friend's mouth, telling her not to say foolish things. But the lady reminded Chio that she had always said she liked him and asked why she was embarrassed now. Another friend added that Chio had cried so much the day he disappeared. They suggested that if he liked Chio too, they should toast. Chio looked at him shyly, and he admitted that he liked her as well. He drank the wine she had given him. Chio looked at him with admiration, and they moved closer, prompting cheers from everyone around them. A moment later, the visitors kept making him drink until his stomach was bloated from all the liquid. His coat belt snapped off because it couldn't handle his huge stomach, yet they still kept giving him alcohol. He told them that he couldn't drink anymore, but the men teased him, saying he was a man and should keep drinking. The chief chimed in, asking if he was getting cocky just because he had become a hero and reminding him to save face for them. Chio's friend joked that if he didn't drink, Chio was hers. Chio laughed and told her friend to stop. He felt his stomach was about to explode and shouted that he really couldn't drink anymore. It felt like his stomach would burst. He trembled in pain when someone suddenly called out, telling everyone not to be fooled. It was Yu, accompanied by Retsu and Darren. They declared that he wasn't a hero. He was a traitor. Their words filled him with anger. He shouted at them to stop messing around, insisting that he wasn't a traitor. But Retsu told him that even with all the evidence against him, he was still making excuses. Darren added that he was a spy from the demon clan and had already merged with the Monstro. He looked down at himself and was speechless when he saw that his body had transformed into Shura's. The military chief shouted for everyone to catch him. He heard the kid crying, calling him a villain instead of a hero. The crowd turned on him, calling him a fraud and expressing their anger at almost being deceived. The ladies pulled Chio away from him, and she desperately called his name. He panicked, trying to explain to Chio that it wasn't true and begging her to listen to him. But before he could say more, Yu gathered lightning power in his hand and struck his stomach, shouting for him to die. The shock of the attack jolted him awake. He sat up in bed, breathing heavily, and realized it had all been a dream. He sighed in relief, grateful it wasn't real, but he couldn't help wishing the part where he and Chio fell in love had been true. He was annoyed that Yu had shown up to ruin his beautiful dream. Just then, he felt something urgent and rushed out of bed, heading straight for the bathroom. Fortunately, he made it in time and sighed in relief, thinking he had almost wet himself. But as he stood there, he noticed something strange. His pee wasn't hitting the toilet. He blinked, wondering if he was still half asleep. When he looked again, he saw that his pee was going in different directions. He couldn't believe it and had a sinking suspicion. He looked down and confirmed his worst fear. There were two of them. Meanwhile, in the hallway, a man reported to Ao that the water circulation system modifications, as instructed by Maya, had been completed. They had also installed a bath device as the first prototype. Ao praised the man for his excellent work, explaining that the influence of the Abyss had caused severe water shortages in the demon territory. By purifying wastewater using the humans' filtration system, they could reuse it multiple times, solving the water issue. Ao added that the cleanliness-obsessed princess would finally be able to bathe. But just then, they heard someone screaming and running toward them. Ao saw it was him, shouting that it wasn't what it seemed. He ran past them, yelling about why things had turned out this way. The man asked Ao if that was Shura and what had happened. Ao sighed, saying that even though Maya was busy, she had to deal with troublesome people. She added that as a man, Deon wasn't helpful, just a constant nuisance. Ao suddenly froze, realizing something. She wondered what she had just seen and looked in the direction Deon was heading. If she recalled correctly, that was the bathroom. Meanwhile, inside the bathroom, Maya was examining the newly installed water circulation system. Poisonous water flowed through the tubes, and an electric machine was connected to it. Maya marveled at the human invention, thinking that if it worked well, they might be able to trade with the other races during the four-clan conference. She clicked the button to start the filter machine, which began sucking in the poisonous water. The dirty water passed through the machine, and clean, white water flowed out of the shower. Maya approached the water, pleased to find it warm and inviting. Outside, Deon was still running at full speed, shouting about what was going on and how he had never heard of something like this happening with the demon clan. Ao chased after him, yelling for him to wait, but he didn't stop. He barged into the bathroom, calling for Maya and demanding to know what was happening. He heard a sound coming from one of the shower rooms and rushed toward it, flinging the door open. The warm steam from the shower hit him as he barged in, but he didn't care. He called out for Maya, only to find her standing in the shower, completely naked and busy cleaning herself. Her shiny, perfectly shaped legs and curves were on full display. She turned around and saw him standing there, stunned, with a nosebleed. His heart raced, his face turned bright red, and his elephants came to life. Ao appeared behind him, about to warn Maya, but she was left speechless when she saw him in such a state in front of the naked princess. Ao furiously approached him, shouting at him for acting so rudely in front of Maya. Maya, meanwhile, was frozen in shyness. Ao launched a kick at him, calling him a disgusting bastard, while Maya swung her whip, shouting at him for daring to intrude. Both attacks hit him, sending him flying out of the castle. As he tumbled through the air, he tried to explain that it wasn't on purpose. Later, he showed them his problem, and they confirmed that there were indeed 2 elephants. He cried, asking why it had mutated and explaining that it was now twice as reactive, making it impossible to control. Maya laughed and told him it wasn't a mutation. It was because he had merged with Mommy's snake. He pulled his pants back up and asked Maya what she meant. She explained that a snake's anatomy has 2 parts, and to gain more experience during training, Mommy had merged her organs with those of the snake through a connection with it. Maya then remembered Mommy playfully telling her not to be too grateful, realizing now what she had meant. Ao sighed, calling it a nuisance, as not everyone wanted to obtain magic power through such a vulgar method. She added that Maya was already dissatisfied with Shura himself, so a fake was even worse. He shouted back that it didn't mean he was worse than Shura. He looked at his hand, thinking that if he returned to the human world with Shura's body, his physique and power would be top tier, and every man would envy him. But now, it felt like he had a perverted twin brother, which would likely cause people to chase him to death. He asked himself what he was even thinking. Maya then told him that when he merged with the snake, his desires had also grown stronger. If he didn't undo it, the babies inside him would try to force their way out on their own, causing his eggs to explode. He was terrified and asked if what Mommy had said about the explosion was true. He demanded to know how he could return to normal and if there was a way. Maya replied that there was a way, but it came at a cost. He shouted that he would do anything if it meant fixing his manly elephants. Maya smirked and told him she hoped his determination would last until the end. Maya ordered Ao to restrain him, and Ao immediately grabbed both of his hands. Maya then took out a sharp blade, causing him to panic. He shouted that it was too extreme, but Maya explained that to stop him from going out of control, this was the simplest method. Ao added that, as a man, he should be able to endure a little pain. He shouted back that this wasn't just a little pain. It was the kind of pain no man could endure, and it was so bad, he'd rather die. Ao asked Maya what would happen if it affected the other one, and Maya replied that this was the first case of its kind, so there were no guarantees. Her words shocked and terrified him even more. He tried to free himself from Ao's grasp, but Ao told Maya that everything was ready and she should proceed. He shouted at Maya to stop, saying he hadn't even used it once and begging her to just kill him already. But Maya still raised the knife and moved closer, making him scream at the top of his lungs for her to stop. Just as she was about to act, she paused, remembering someone who might be able to help. She put the knife away, and Ao let him go. He slammed onto the floor, covering his lower part and sighing in relief, thinking he had been saved. Ao glared at him, muttering that she hoped both roots of all evil could be cut away. He stood up and shouted at Maya, demanding to know why she hadn't mentioned there was another way earlier. He had almost been killed. Maya calmly replied that she had only just remembered. Ao smiled and asked Maya if she was thinking of what Ao thought she was. Maya confirmed that it was the alchemist, Catherine. She explained that Catherine was at odds with Mommy and had conducted various experiments in the past specifically to counter Mommy's abilities. Maya guessed that Catherine might have a solution to his problem. He was terrified again, asking if all Demon Clan women were just a bunch of eccentrics. But with no other options, he reluctantly agreed. He asked Maya where Catherine was, and Maya replied that Catherine wasn't far from the central region. They would need to adjust their plans. Maya then ordered Ao to prepare for departure by that night, as they would leave for the four-clan conference the next day. Ao acknowledged the order. The next day, they began their journey to the four-clan meeting. Ao led the way at the front, followed by guards and 2 carriages pulled by demon birds. Above them, Moran watched, confirming that they had departed earlier than expected. Mari remarked that Mommy wouldn't reveal such important information to everyone, and even he hadn't known about it. He wondered where Moran had gotten the information. A lady chimed in, saying her child had merged with Shura. Mommy explained that naturally, Maya would turn to Catherine for help, but leaving the next day meant Maya hadn't even enjoyed having 2 of them. Moran reminded Mommy that she used to say she hated men and asked why she was suddenly willing to cooperate with them. Mommy responded that while humans might believe in women helping each other, for the Demon Clan, profit reigned supreme. She added that in a 2-on-1 situation, it was obvious whose side to take, and anyone could figure it out. Moran laughed loudly, calling it typical of the vile flower of the Demon Clan. He told Mommy that he owed her one, and promised that when he became the Demon King, she would benefit. Moran then jumped down, shouting for his group to move. The other demons followed. Moran called out to Deon, shouting that he didn't think Deon would cower from such threats. He swung his sword toward the carriage, yelling for Deon to die. With a single slash, Moran cut the carriage in half, freeing the beast bird. The other demons charged at the guards. Io ordered the guards to protect the princess. A chaotic battle ensued, with demons and guards killing each other, blood splattering everywhere. Mari watched from above, unmoved. Mami asked Mari why he wasn't joining, given their cooperative relationship. Mari replied, asking if she thought he was as foolish as Moran, unaware he was being used. Mami claimed she had no idea what he was talking about. Mari explained that among the 4 great demon generals, Moran had the most subordinates. But Maya was allied with Shura and was very powerful. It was wiser to observe than to force a confrontation. He asked Mami if her goal was to make 2 strong individuals destroy each other. Mami laughed, admitting he had figured her out. Her snake emerged, and she patted it, saying Moran still didn't understand her. She wasn't just ruthless. She never forgot what was done to her or her child. She then asked Mari if her assumption was correct, that this was all part of his plan. She said she knew someone with his intellect would never truly submit to a fool like Moran. Mari stared at her for a moment, realizing she was the one who had been eavesdropping on them. Mami also figured out that Marie had noticed her actions a long time ago. She asked him if he was interested in her since he had known about her eavesdropping but hadn't exposed her. Marie played with her hair and replied that, technically, it was because they shared the same goal. Mami flirtatiously held his face, telling him they were quite compatible, something she had never realized until now. Mari responded that it wasn't too late to realize it now. They both asked each other if perhaps they could become the perfect partners. Just then, Mami's snake rushed forward, and Mari aimed his hand at her, causing a powerful explosion that sent them both flying backward. Mari told her that, in the end, they really couldn't trust a woman's words. Mami dashed at him with full power, reminding him that she never forgot what was done to her. She asked if he had no memory at all, saying it had hurt so much when he betrayed her, and now she needed revenge. She gathered her power in her hand and aimed it at Mari's head. Meanwhile, below them, Ao lay on the ground, severely injured. Maran's people laughed, shouting that their enemies were weak. They mocked how their opponents had fallen before they could even enjoy themselves, calling it a total victory. Moran asked his men where Shura and Maya were, wondering if they were still inside the carriage. One of his men shouted that he had found them and lifted the destroyed carriage, revealing the bleeding bodies of Shura and Maya. Moran guessed they had been caught completely off guard. He shouted that someone called a godslayer shouldn't die so easily, adding that this was what happened when they got distracted by lust. But then Moran noticed Devarolf beneath Devon's body. He reached for it, laughing and saying that what was once proudly Shura's now belonged to him. As he grabbed Devarolf and pulled it, he noticed a string attached to it. Before he could figure out what it was, a bomb exploded, hitting Moran and his comrades. The explosion was so powerful that it destroyed everything around them. Above, Mami was busy repeatedly kicking Mami, while Marie defended himself. He found the perfect timing and kicked Mami away, but she landed safely. Both of them were shocked when they heard the loud explosion below, wondering what had happened. They descended and saw Moran severely injured, holding someone's arm. Moran coughed in pain and glared at them as they approached. Mari asked what had happened and if it was a bomb. Moran angrily threw the arm away, saying they had been tricked. It was a magic puppet, not Maya. He glared at Mami, who panicked and assured them she hadn't leaked any information. Mami wondered when Maya had realized their plan and couldn't believe Maya had come up with a counterattack so quickly. She realized she had underestimated Maya. Disappointed, Mami told them that even with 2 men joining forces, they couldn't take down 1 woman. She called them completely useless and left, saying she shouldn't have helped them in the first place. She thought the opportunity had been wasted. Meanwhile, far from the chaos, Maya and Ao watched the explosion from the sky. Ao told Maya that, as predicted, Mami had been connected to Moran and the others. Using the carriage as a decoy and traveling through the sky had been the right choice. Io added that it was truly a case of the schemer trapped by their own scheme. Maya explained that Mami never did anything without a benefit, and even merging the snake with Deon hadn't been just for fun. That was why Maya had realized Mami wanted them to leave earlier than planned, setting up an ambush. Since Mami wasn't strong enough alone, she had sought out an ally, and the simple-minded Moran had been the easiest to manipulate. Maya then asked Deon if bombs with such power could really be made from just rocks and wood. He explained that they weren't just rocks and wood, they contained potassium nitrate, charcoal, and sulfur. Mixing them together created a simple bomb, which was basic knowledge among heroes and easy to make. He proudly added that under the right conditions, they could craft even stronger weapons. Ao told him that small bombs were nothing more than mosquito bites to the demon clan. Unless caught off guard, they wouldn't work. He responded that this was exactly why strategy was more important than weapons. Excitedly, he added that this time, by exploiting Mami's overconfidence and Moran's greed, they had overcome the situation without having to fight. He explained that getting the enemy to surrender without fighting was the best tactic. Maya was surprised and asked if this was a military strategy. He explained that it came from The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Maya asked how he knew so much about strategy, and Ao angrily interjected, asking if he was mocking her and Maya. He told Ao she was overreacting and asked if she was some kind of drama queen, which only made Ao angrier. He wrote something on the table and showed them the words, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Ao snapped that he didn't need to show it because she already knew. Maya then remarked that weapons, strategies, science, and technology were human-made, which was why humankind had so many amazing things. It was no wonder they could fight against the demon clan without any magical power. Excitedly, Maya added that it would be great if demons could have that knowledge as well. He offered to teach her, which startled her, and left her staring at him in silence. Ao shouted at Maya, warning her not to believe Deon. She reminded Maya that humans were cunning creatures and wouldn't easily teach demons how to fight against them. He thought of Ao as a violent woman, and noted that she had suddenly become sharp. Ao asked if he couldn't argue back because she had hit the mark. but he calmly replied that the most important thing in strategy was situational awareness. On the battlefield, there were no eternal rivals or eternal friends, only profit. He told Maya that they each held secrets about the other and shared a common enemy. For now, they were the strongest alliance of mutual benefit, and by working together, they could secure victory. He added that this was for her as much as it was for him. Maya remained quiet, simply staring at him. He knew that to dismantle Mostro from within, he needed to understand the weaknesses of the four clans. The upcoming four-clan conference was a golden opportunity. If he could earn Maya's trust, he could step into the heart of that world's power. Maya then told him to teach her the art of war and the knowledge of humankind, starting that day. She was excited, but then she suddenly grabbed his arm, surprising him. She held it tightly, warning him that if he had any ulterior motives, she wouldn't be Shura's wife anymore. She squeezed his arm as a firm warning, making him scream in pain. A moment later, they landed in the city and began walking through the streets. Maya explained to him that this was the public area where the territories of the four clans intersected. All trade between the clans passed through here, so there were complicated rules and order. She then pointed out members of the Beast Clan and the Winged Clan walking in the street. He was surprised, as it was the first time he had seen Mostro other than demons since arriving. As they walked, they noticed a beautiful beast woman walking gracefully. Several winged men stared at her horse-like rear, and one of them boldly slapped her butt. She was shocked and shouted at the man, demanding to know what he was doing. The winged man smirked and told her not to act so innocent, saying that with her hips raised so high, she was practically inviting him. A beast man suddenly appeared, furious, and asked the winged man if he knew what would happen if he messed with their women. The winged man scoffed, saying that strict Beast Clan men were so boring. He added that he could tell by watching the beast man fight that it was all brute force, and he offered to show them what real satisfaction felt like. Another beast man chimes in, shouting at the winged man and accusing him of only being good at sneaking around and doing cowardly things. The two beast men then charged at the winged men, yelling that talking was pointless and they should just take them down. One of the beast men spun around, positioning his powerful horse-like legs, and launched a kick at the arrogant winged man. However, the winged man managed to fly away just in time, laughing and calling the beast man a fool who could only move on the ground. The winged man shouted that he would show them how terrifying the winged clan could be. He began spitting poison at the beast men, causing the others to run away in fear, knowing the poison was deadly. The blonde beast man grabbed a melon and called the winged men cowards, shouting that he would shoot them down. He jumped into the air, raised his body, and forcefully threw the melon, hitting one of the winged men in the head. The winged man fell to the ground, cursing and swearing to kill the beast man. The two groups then began attacking each other in a chaotic brawl. They watched the two clans attacking each other, and he asked if no one was going to step in and stop it. Ao shot back, asking if he hadn't been listening to what Maya had said. She reminded him that in this place, race didn't matter. No one interfered, and no one protected anyone. Maya added that this was why Catherine had chosen this location. Ao continued, explaining that the place was ideal for Catherine because of its lawlessness. The two women exchanged worried glances, making him ask what was wrong. He wondered if Catherine was really that terrifying. Maya replied that terrifying didn't even begin to describe Catherine, but he would find out soon enough. Her words left him even more frightened. A moment later, they arrived at the shop. Maya pointed and told him this was it. He looked up and saw the sign, Catherine Clinic. The door opened, and he froze in fear. A small robot strolls forward with blue, glowing eyes. It stopped in front of them and greeted them warmly. The robot introduced itself as Toto, the AI medical assistant, and asked how it could assist them. He was confused and asked why there was an AI assistant there. Maya explained that Catherine was extremely interested in human science and technology. She had come across Toto for sale, stolen it, and made it her assistant. He remarked that Maya said it so casually. Ao told Toto that the demon princess Maya had business with Catherine and had come all this way to visit. Toto acknowledged this and guided them inside. As they followed Toto, he noticed jars filled with liquids of different colors, containing various strange objects. Toto stopped in one of the rooms and informed them to wait there, as Catherine was currently working. They agreed, and while waiting, he walked over to a table and looked at the books lying there. The titles included thigh anatomy, biology, and pharmacology. He also noticed diagrams of acupressure points and even human anatomical models. He approached one of the models, noting how well made it was. Other than being a demon, there wasn't much difference from humans. He asked if Catherine knew a lot about humans. He then looked through the window and saw a woman in the middle of the room, busy mixing liquids. He stared at her for a moment and asked Maya if that was Catherine. He commented that Catherine didn't look as scary as they had made her sound, but Maya warned him that if that was what he thought, he was in for a surprise. Toto told them that Catherine disliked being disturbed while working and begged them to remain silent and wait quietly. Otherwise, they would end up like that, Toto said, pointing at the anatomical model. The model suddenly trembled, and he realized it was alive. Toto explained that it was a previous patient who had made a loud commotion while Catherine was working. Catherine had gotten angry and turned him into an anatomical model. Toto then proudly pointed to the other side, showing the patient's skin. The demon, now separated from his skin, admitted through tears that he had been wrong and begged Catherine to forgive him. He stared at the demon, horrified, and admitted that Catherine wasn't just scary. She was a monster. Suddenly, the clinic wall exploded, shocking everyone. When they looked back, they saw two horse-like beastmen thrown inside. A winged man kicked them while laughing, taunting them about where their confidence had gone. Outside, the beast woman was being held by other winged men. He realized that these were the same winged and beast clan members from earlier. Toto rushed over in a panic, begging them to remain quiet in the hospital. Toto told them to line up in order, but the winged man just kicked Toto away, demanding to know what was going on.